All right, welcome to the Study Abroad student panel. My name is Adrienne Cifuentes. I am an advisor in the UC Santa Barbara Study Abroad office, but you are not here to learn about me. You are here to meet these four wonderful Study Abroad returnees. So could you guys please introduce yourselves? You tell us your name, your major or minor, what campus you're from, where you studied abroad, and why you decided to study there. And let's start with Fiona.
Hi everyone, my name is Fiona. I'm a fourth year biochemistry major at UC Davis, and the program that I went on is the summer physics program, and that was in Hong Kong. And the reason why I chose that program in that country is because I have a lot of cultural ties to that place. I have family nearby, and also I really just wanted to get my major requirements done. I can explain all about the physics program later, but essentially it allows me to finish a whole year of physics in 8 weeks. So it's pretty cool.
Yes, awesome. Thanks for being here, Fiona. Next up, we have Gary.
Hi everyone, this is Gary, and I'm a psychology and brain science and economics double major. I'm also a minor in applied psychology. I'm from UCSB, and it's actually my third year experience. I went to Fudan University during the pandemic, which is also my second year, sophomore year, study for the winter and spring quarters. It is an immersion program, which we could expand later, and I learned a lot from that school. The reason for me to study abroad, well, pretty much I prefer in-person instruction, and that's the only place I know that offer offline classroom, and it's that's a major reason that I actually want to go there. And I also want to know how like Chinese school are like. Since I'm an international student, I just kind of feel like I should try to actually study in my own country for somehow. And yeah, I also want to explore different regions, so that's the main reason I choose to study abroad.
Very cool. Thanks, Gary. And next is Samantha.
Hi, everyone. My name is Samantha. I'm a classics major and an archaeology and political science minor. I'm from UC Irvine, and I went to college year in Athens, which is in Greece. That was the program I went on during the spring and the summer of 2021, so like this past spring. And the reason I chose that program was because I really wanted to go to Greece or Italy because it fit my major, and I wanted to go to a country that like I was studying about. And so that program just really fit what I wanted to study, and like the different opportunities they offer for classics majors were really fun. And it was a really great experience. So I'm glad all of you are here to listen to us.
Yay, thanks for being here, Samantha. And next up is Zoe.
Hi, my name's Zoe. I'm an art history major and FMS minor at UC Irvine, and I'm now a peer advisor with the Study Abroad Center there. I studied abroad in England at the University of Warwick during the fall of 2019. And I chose to study there because it has a really, really strong program for my major. And I also really wanted to study abroad in England because of the access to all of the incredible museums there and throughout Europe in general, and the great public transportation.
Welcome. Thanks for being here, Zoe. So our first question is for Samantha and Gary. What was it like studying abroad during the pandemic? And let's start with Samantha.
Yeah, that's, I mean, a pretty fair question. It was a little weird, if I'm being honest. When I first got to Greece, I had to quarantine for a week before classes started. So I was in my apartment just with my roommates hanging out there. And then Greece had a policy where you had to text the government before you went out of your apartment every day. So there was a number that you texted, and then you texted another number like saying what you were doing. So if you texted a 1, that was like, I'm going to the grocery store. But if you texted a 6, that was like, I'm going on a walk. So you had to do that every single time you left your apartment, so they could like track where you were going and make sure, everyone was like social distancing and not really going outside their like, specific like cities or whatever and stuff like that. So it was a little weird. There was a lot of COVID tests. I had to take a COVID test every week, but Overall, it was still a really good experience. I didn't get to travel as much through Greece or throughout Europe as like I wanted to while I was abroad, but I was still able to like walk around the city a lot and get to know my neighborhood really well. So that was really nice because if I ever go back, like I know like where I want to find like an Airbnb or a hotel because I know the neighborhood really well. And I made some friends with like a local cafe owner, like all my friends did too. So we know him really well. And it was still a really good experience. I got to know the city really well.
That's so cool. I'm so glad that worked out. And Gary, what was your experience like studying abroad during the pandemic?
Yeah, so for me, pandemic is not very big issue because like Chinese government responds to the pandemic issue really fast, and they got the situation controlled. The only things I have to do is to continue to get tested for the COVID test, and as long as you got the positive test, it's like a really big deal in China. But I mean, everybody is got vaccinated and they got immunization in the school and kind of required to wear the mask when you take like massive transportations, like public transportations. Otherwise, I feel it's pretty comfortable and safe to being around. And I mean, if you are actually studying the UC campus right now, you are facing different people every day and could attend to different lectures. And all you have to do is just get your vaccination and wear the mask. So I think you probably want to change when you study abroad. And I would say it's a great chance to push you out of your comfort zone because the life change due to the COVID thrust you to think about other options, maybe like studying abroad. And I mean, it's a great chance to actually learn in different country and invest in a totally distinct culture. And it wouldn't hurt you if you choose to study abroad after or during the pandemic. Like if the pandemic is really severe, I think most school offers remote instructions as well. So I don't think it's a big concern. What I want to say is that don't let COVID stop you from exploration.
Awesome. I'm so glad you had an awesome experience
Mhm.
too. And then Fiona, you also had a very unique experience. So you didn't go abroad during COVID, but you were in Hong Kong during the protests. What was that like?
Yeah, so forgot to mention this earlier, but I went abroad the summer of 2019. So that was also happens to be the time when the Hong Kong people were protesting, and there's a long history and reason why they were protesting. But essentially, they were just trying to fight for their own rights and gain, like they thought they were losing their own sense of autonomy because technically Hong Kong's not a country, it's a special administrative region of China. And this has always been a point of conflict between China and Hong Kong. And it's this huge history, the people are involved, and this just happens to be these protests, these series of protests just happen to be an accumulation of all the conflict, and it just boiled over into what we saw as these protests. So a lot of them were peaceful. And during my time there were little to none that were actually got violent. There were ones that did get violent later on, but that was after our program. But how our program kept us safe was essentially they would send out like emails saying like, oh, there's an organized protest in this region, just avoid it because you don't want to get involved, get caught up in there in case things, escalate. And for the most part, they really didn't. So some people checked it out anyway. And what you would basically see is a lot of people dressed in black, and they would just be like, either standing there talking and all that. And it was just very interesting to see because it is when we were there, it's a historical moment. This is history in the making, and it's just like we just couldn't coincidentally just happened to be there and also experience that. So it was very cool, and yeah, it just kind of made me think like, wow, this is happening.
That's such an amazing thing. And I've heard stories from other people as well. You never know what history is going to happen when you're abroad. So I'm so glad you got to experience that. And I'm glad that you were safe and felt secure while you were there too. All right, so our next question is for all panelists. And this is a common question that I got a lot from our attendees. What would you say is the biggest difference you noticed between your host culture abroad and California? And we're going to start, let's start with Fiona.
I thought a lot about this question, and I can't really say that there aren't any like big differences because in California there are a lot of different I would say like communities and ethnicities and all those different groups. And I also grew up in the Bay Area, so there are a lot of different ethnic groups there, specifically like Asian groups. So I was able to grow up around a lot of people that looked like me and talked in Chinese or different Chinese dialects. And going to Hong Kong, people also spoke various Chinese dialects, and they also spoke English there because Hong Kong used to be a British colony. So it's because of the whole international, Hong Kong is such an international hub. There's English and there's, Cantonese, Mandarin, all that. And it's just very easy for English speaking people to go there. And a lot of the people in my program, they really enjoyed Hong Kong because it was so foreigner friendly, I would say. And because of that, I just felt like, Hong Kong was just an extension of my home in the Bay Area. Just there were people who spoke my language, people who spoke English, people who spoke Cantonese, because that's also the language that I grew up with and the language they dominantly speak there. So it just felt like home in a different place.
That's
you know
so
what I mean.
cool. That's very cool. And Gary, for you, so since you studied abroad in your home country, you have a much bigger sense. You've spent more time in China, you've spent more time in California. What would you say is the biggest cultural difference?
Yeah, the biggest one I would say is the mode that happened between the instructor and the students. So for California, I could say like interactive class setting, and professors have like special office hours offer the student to ask different questions, and glad to help them to navigate through their grad school options, career options, and different campus resources we could use. But for like the university I exchanged to, which is a Fudan University, it's a really competitive university for like Chinese domestic students because it's really, I mean, extremely hard to get in. Like maybe 1 out of 10,000 people could get in, and it's a really top university at China. So everyone over there is pretty smart, and they try to get as much attention from the instructor as they can. But unfortunately, instructor doesn't have like office hours there. So it's really hard for them to get the attention. So they would rush to the instructor sometimes after the classes end and ask a bunch of questions. And it's the only time I feel the class is live, because before the class and during the class, like no one actually talks except for the instructor. So I feel it's kind of different from the experience in California. Like the classroom is more harmonious. Like people are always trying to compete out each other, but it's a good thing in a good way. It's good for competitions and try to self-development, but it's hard for you to quickly adjust that kind of culture because you might not experience that. So I would say that's the biggest challenge and differences I encountered. And also like the grading options, they have a strictly grade quota that only 30% of the class could get an A and A minus. It's kind of tricky when the class size is small because only maybe 3 or 4 out of 20 students could actually get an A. So the GPA might look not so fancy when you try to study abroad, but I believe it's only the case in Fudan University.
That's really interesting. Let's see who's next. We got Samantha. What would you say your biggest cultural difference you found in Greece?
It's funny that Gary mentions like the interaction between the student and teacher, because I was going to say the same thing, but like on the opposite side of the spectrum. I'm not sure if it's like just for Greece or like all of Europe, but my professors were really friendly and really casual. Like I called them by their first names, which I've never done with like, I guess, a superior before or someone who's teaching me, which was really new. And then I had friends in other classes who got invited over to like our professor's house, like to have dinner with the class. And they would talk about like the class together, like over dinner, and the professor would cook for them. And then we went on field study. Like I had professors who, like after like our day of like looking at archaeological sites, would be like, hey, I'm having wine at this restaurant. If anyone like happens to stop by and wants to drink wine with me and talk about like what we saw today at like this archaeological site, like you're free to stop by. Which was really interesting and just totally different than what I'm used to experiencing in California. And I actually really enjoyed it because I got to know the professors, like not only as teachers, but like as people, and like more closely related to them, which I found like really interesting and just really fun too.
That's so neat. And last but not least, Zoe.
I'm having some Wi-Fi issues right now, so I'm sorry if I cut out in advance. But one thing I found really interesting about studying abroad in England is just the completely different sense of history that's embedded both way people think, the landscape itself. Of course, coming from Los Angeles area, this is a hub of contemporary and modern art. And modern architecture as well. So being able to see like medieval castles and things like that was just so completely different for me, as well as sort of the attitude towards them, where everyone feels like it's so completely normal to be seeing even like Roman ruins from millennia ago. I really enjoyed that as an art history student. But aside from that, I found a lot of things really familiar and comforting, not just because, like England and America have a lot of cultural similarities, but also because my mom's from New Zealand, which is a Commonwealth country. So some of the things that might have been considered like quirks in England to other people felt just like really, really familiar to me.
Excellent. So since you already had that like shared common ground, um, did you feel any kind of homesickness? Did you feel like you were missing out on things back in California? That's for Zoe.
I was just really excited to be there, but I also felt like a bit of fear of missing out for just the things that my friends were doing at home. I just see them like hanging out together and be like, oh, they're hanging out without me, because I was like, thousands of miles away. But I think like I just made the most of my time there, and I focused on the things that I was getting to do, the opportunities that I had that were unique to studying abroad. And I just texted with my friends and my family a lot so I wouldn't miss them as much.
Oh, good. How about you, Samantha? Did you experience any homesickness or culture shock?
Yeah, the first like couple weeks I was there, I didn't really feel anything because I was like on a high of about being in a new country, and so I would like think to myself all the time, like, oh my God, like I'm here, I'm thousands of miles away, like this is so crazy that it's happening. But after that, like I guess honeymoon like period, um, like faded, I did get homesick a little bit just because I missed my family because we were all home during COVID. So it was like nice to like reconnect with them and stuff like that. But again, it was during COVID, so it was a little weird because I was sad to not be home, but I was also like happy that I wasn't home, because I was getting all these new experiences abroad, and I didn't have to be like stuck in my house like with my siblings or my parents, as I'm sure like a bunch of college students felt like over COVID and over like that quarantine period. So it was a little weird. I felt a little bipolar at times because I was missing home, but also like glad that I was away for the majority of it. Um, but yeah, I did get homesick at some points.
Totally natural. That happens all the time. So my next question is another question that I've gotten a lot from participants and people thinking about studying abroad, is it hard to make friends? And I want to ask this question to both Gary and Zoe because you guys studied at host universities abroad. So you're going in to a place where, people have already met each other, maybe it's a big university. So I want to start with Gary. Was it hard to make friends in Fudan?
I would say not at all. Like not only will know UC campus student, but like we have different exchange student not coming from UC campus, but also from other university of United States. Like I know a few guys from Vandenberg and also the University of Virginia. And everyone is just being to the new environment. So everyone is kind of new and trying to socialize. It's not a problem that you feel like nervous about making friends at the beginning, but believe me, you're gonna find a way to make new friends because you can do a bunch of brand new things with your new friend meet there, and like everything around you is novel and you are free to explore them. And during the process, you will meet more guys and girls, and you will find out that it's the same when you stay in the UC campus, like it's going to be the first year in the UC campus, and you will spend a like very long time with those guys you hang out with. So it's not a problem that you are, it's not a problem to make a friend at all.
That's awesome. And Zoe, what was your experience like making friends at Warwick?
Um, I had a really good social experience at my university. I was housed with a lot of first year students, so they were all from my host country, but they were also new to the university, and we all really bonded and were able to like explore the area together, even though they obviously had a lot more familiarity with their culture than I did. We had a great time like just talking about our respective experiences. They asked me a lot of questions about what it's like to live in California, and I asked them a lot of questions about England as well. Like Gary, I also made friends with a lot of other students who were coming in from different countries. So some of my really good friends were coming in from like Italy, Spain, Korea, all over the world. And we all really bonded over the fact that we were all experiencing this new environment together. We had a great time like translating things into our respective languages for each other and things like that. So it was a great opportunity not only to meet people from England, but to meet people from all over the world.
So neat. Oh, I'm so glad. And next question. This is for Fiona and Gary. Both of you studied abroad somewhere where you had family and cultural ties. So I wanted to ask you, like, what was that like? And I'll start with Fiona. What was it like being somewhere where you have family and cultural ties and you felt a little bit familiar already?
Yeah, so I actually had family not in Hong Kong, but in China. So they're really close by. Like they're in like the one of the southern provinces in China. So it's like an hour away from Hong Kong, super close. So that was probably one of the reasons why my parents allowed me to go study abroad, because they're like, you know, if anything goes wrong and you're over there, you have family that can come by and like rescue you or something. And I was like, great. But it was really cool because I was excited to kind of like practice speaking Cantonese to people that were not my own family, because I did grow up speaking Cantonese with my family, and like I'm somewhat okay. I'm like okay conversationally, but like going Hong Kong, it's like you're out there. These people know the language, and you're just like, I'm gonna try to speak with you in this language that I've only practiced with my family, and I would say it was pretty successful. I managed to, you know, navigate myself through the city and did well in that. So it was really cool to be able to practice that language, and also, you know, it's just, again, it felt like home because, again, I could speak the language and everything felt familiar. I didn't feel like, oh, I don't know what to do. I can't communicate with the people. And that could be like an issue that some people may have if they decide to study abroad in a country that they don't know the language for. But for me, that wasn't really the case. So yeah, it was just interesting to kind of practice all these things.
Nice. Yeah, put it in the real world, bigger expanse. That's nice. And Gary, what was it like for you studying back at your home country after being in California?
Yeah, I totally agree with what Fiona she has said. Like it's just feel welcoming, and like everything you know are there. Like I'm not like I didn't go to Hong Kong, but go to Shanghai, which is like more typical Chinese city. So I kind of know everything around there already, but it's just feel brand new for me to study in a Chinese university because I have never done so. It's kind of a challenge because I thought I could speak Chinese very well, so I took some Chinese classes, but it turns out maybe I overrated myself a bit. It's a challenging courses, and everything you think might be familiar with you actually turns out not. And it's a great chance because I reviewed myself, and I feels like I deepened my bond with my country and my hometown more, since I have taken like international schools for my high school as well. So I feel like I have explored a different side of my country and my people, and I really love that experience.
That's so special. Oh, I'm so glad you got to do that. All right, my next question is for the whole panel, all the panelists. So the question I received from the audience was, what kind of classes did you take abroad? And then either what was different about them or what did you get out of them since they were abroad. So kind of like the benefits or the differences that you got from those classes. And we'll go down the list again. So we'll start with Fiona.
So the classes that I took were the physics courses. So this was an accelerated program that allowed you to complete a full year of physics in 8 weeks. And so that can translate differently depending on which UC you're from. But if you're from UC Davis, it's the entire Physics 7 series of A, B, and C. So just to translate that, it's 30 weeks in 8 weeks. So it's very fast and there's just physics at you every day. And there's just, the difference is that it's so much more fast paced because normally you can pace yourself throughout like 30 weeks, but this is just 8 weeks. So that's the main difference is the pacing. Another like difference is that I think you're also pushing, like you're also challenging yourself because you're in this new place. You're not in your home university. You don't really know where everything is. And you're still kind of getting used to that new setting. So there was also that aspect that you had to get used to in addition to the pacing. So that was another thing that a lot of us like had to deal with and overcome. But a lot of us, we ended up all doing fine. So that's that. And what did I get out of going abroad than taking it here? Well, I got to make a lot of really great friends and I got to explore a really cool place. So that was fun.
And a question I get all the time for summer physics specifically is it worth the hustle? Because you're working hard for 8 weeks for that year of physics. Is it worth it?
I would say yes, because once I finished it, like, yes, it's like grueling and like you're just like, oh my God, did I make a mistake? Because I definitely thought that during the program. But once you're done. And then you get to see all your other friends take it and they're going to be like, you know, groaning and moaning about physics. And you're like, I'm done. So it's worth it. I'd say it's worth it.
Excellent. Excellent. Gary, what kind of classes did you take abroad?
So I mainly take economic and financial courses over Fudan because it's a really fascinating school. They have great economic classes, and that's the reason why I choose to challenge myself. Because at the time my departure and go exchange, I didn't declare the full major in economic, but after studying over abroad with like different courses, I decided to actually step into the economic field. The most impressive course I have taken is financial management. It's a really challenging course and it's English instructed. So I feel like more comfortable with English instructed courses, and it helps me to prepare for my financial certification test later on. And yeah, it really moved. Since we have different kind of semester quarter differences, so the classes over there for me it's kind of slower, but at the meantime you have to take more classes because you are required to take the minimum of 24 quarter units, which means you have to take 7 or 8 semester classes at the same time during the whole semester. So the shift between from quarter to semester kind of is overwhelming to me, but I just fall in love with that because I could choose more classes. And also I took some Chinese specific culture classes like acupuncture and Chinese herb medicine. So I really got to practice some like arcane art of Chinese traditions, and I really love them. It's not offered in any kind of UC campus, so I perceive it as a benefit of education abroad because you can actually learn courses you had never had a chance to learn during your exchange experience.
Excellent. And how about you, Samantha? What kind of classes did you take abroad?
Yeah, mine were mostly classics classes. Like I was in Greece as a classics major, so it was like pretty self-explanatory. I did take 2 language classes, which were ancient Greek, and then I took modern Greek, which in hindsight was a weird idea because they're not the same language, but they have a lot of similarities because they use the same alphabet and like the grammar is really similar. So that was really hard. Again, like you don't, anyone who's listening, you don't have to do that. Like you don't have to take the host country's language if you don't want to, but I thought to myself, like, this might be the only chance to like learn like maybe some modern Greek because I like a lot of universities don't teach it. And so I took it like just for fun. And it was really interesting because like I had it was really, really hard. But it was still really fun, and we got to like walk around the city a lot and like try to order things from cafes, and I failed miserably, but it was still really fun. And then my other classes, we went on site a lot. So once archaeological sites opened up in Greece, we had classes like at those sites. And so like one of my most like just amazing experiences was having this topography class like at 8 a.m., which was really early, but we went to the Parthenon, and like we were by ourselves like at the Parthenon at 8 a.m. like on a Monday, and there was no one else there. It was just the people who were like reconstructing the Parthenon and us like learning about it with our professor. We were just like walking around, and we had like the whole place to ourselves, which was like a really just like special moment that I really cherish. And then the summer class that I took, which just was the whole month of June, was an archaeological class. So I was doing an excavation actually like on a Greek island. And so I was like, using a pickaxe and stuff, hacking at the ground for like 5 hours a day. But it was still really fun. I got to find a lot of pottery, and I got a lot of cool like field work done. And it made me realize that I like really like archaeology, and that might be like a possible career path for me. So that was also really fun. So yeah, I think the main takeaway was that I had a lot of classes on site, and learning about like the places and things around me, which was really special.
How cool. That's so neat. And then Zoe, what were your classes like?
I only had to take 2 classes while I was studying abroad, but both of them I think were worth like twice as many units as a regular class at a UC, because they were these really, really high level seminars. Both of them were different aspects of Renaissance art history, which is not really my field at all. So it was really great to like get an eye into something completely different from my usual studies. They were also probably to this day the most specific and highly intensive classes I've ever taken, which might sound scary, but I mean that in a good way. It was like really interesting and exciting for me. And I got to do some really exciting high level research in those classes. So one of them was a class specifically looking at Leonardo da Vinci as an inventor and scientist. So I wrote a paper about how his architectural drawings influenced how we viewed the human body and created anatomical drawings. And then my other class was specifically looking at architecture and Renaissance paintings. So I wrote about a specific type of painting called continuous narrative paintings, where architecture basically creates like comic book panels where there's multiple reiterations of the same figure to show like the full story of a certain action. So that was like really exciting to me, just to be able to do such like specific research and get to take like 10 weeks of classes on something that was like basically these professors' entire passion, their subject of research at the moment. And I also had a lot of access to different resources. So for instance, for one of our field trips for one of our classes, we got to go to a library and see a folio, so a notebook of Renaissance drawings in person. And we got to like actually turn the pages and everything. So that was really exciting.
Wow. That sounds phenomenal. I wish you guys could see me right now and have my camera on, because I'm just like grinning from hearing about all of your experiences. All right, more questions. So I know when you go abroad, you get, you talked about your amazing class experiences. You talked about your friends. Were there any other special experiences, opportunities, activities you got to experience? And I'll start with this for Samantha.
Yeah, I did have a really cool experience. My program, College Year in Athens, they partner with this like local marble carving workshop every semester, and students can sign up, and you have to pay a fee, but you can sign up to take like this workshop with this guy who's been carving marble like for decades. And so once a week, I got to go in to his workshop for like 2 hours and learn how to carve marble, and I took home this like giant like marble carving, which I don't have here with me, but I would show you. But it's this huge marble carving that is like 10 pounds or something, which I'm not really sure how I fit in my carry-on bag, but I did like the Stark direwolf from Game of Thrones, but it was really fun. I was there with like a lot of my friends, and we got to learn like how to carve marble with like a hammer and like a chisel, like people in antiquity used to do, which was a really fun like cultural experience to like have, you know, like us in the modern era, like doing stuff that the ancients used to do. So that was really, really fun. And just just a random experience I would never have gotten if I didn't go abroad.
Oh, cool. I'm also very impressed that you put it in your luggage. Very, very impressed. And how about you, Zoe? Any special activities or opportunities you had?
One thing I got to do when I was abroad, because I was there in the fall and winter season, I got to celebrate Guy Fawkes Day in Britain, which is celebrated with like huge fireworks displays and sometimes burning of effigies. It's a really interesting holiday. But my flat is in the country, and it takes place over these medieval castle ruins. So we just got to go out to a castle late at night and watch fireworks. Another great opportunity, of course, just with the winter season, was getting to go to all of the European Christmas markets. They really go all out for Christmas, and it was so cool to see all of the like handmade goods and like the candies, the roasted chestnuts, all this like really amazing things, and like delicious food as well.
Oh, I miss those Christmas markets. I could use a good Christmas market right about now. That sounds delightful. All right, so we have two more questions for everyone. So first off, what did you get out of studying abroad? And we'll start with Fiona.
So what I got out of studying abroad was, well, first off, I got to complete my whole physics requirement abroad. So that's usually the main thing. A lot of people go abroad for academics. I did that as well. So I got that done. And then I got to chill my second, because I went the summer between my freshman and sophomore year. So I didn't have to take physics my sophomore year. I just focused on other things, and that was fun. So also because of studying abroad, I'm actually graduating early. So with study abroad, if you plan it right, you can actually move up your graduation. So got that. Another thing I got was a lot of really cool friends. So my program is just UC students. So I'd say like 80% of my program was like people from UCLA. We also have some UC Davis people and some UC Berkeley people. So it was a good opportunity for me to actually meet people from other UCs, because I've never met people from other UCs. Like we never really had an opportunity to. So that was great. I got to meet them, become close friends with them, hung out with them, explored the city with them. So that was that. And I also really got to understand my own cultural identity, because yes, I identify as Chinese, but when I was in Hong Kong, I realized that there's actually a difference between people who identify as Chinese that are from like, say, mainland China versus people from Hong Kong. So that was also born kind of exemplified by the protests, because there's apparently a clear difference between the two. So that kind of got me thinking like, there's something going on here that I did not know about, because I didn't grow up here. I grew up in, the United States, where we don't really, get to actually live with the problems that these people are facing. So yeah, that's what I experienced.
Awesome, and congratulations on graduating early. That's so fantastic and totally doable. Gary, what did you get out of studying abroad?
Yeah, for me, it might be a little bit tricky, because it's actually giving me a chance at time to pause myself from obsessive study. While I was like in freshman and sophomore, I almost completed all my graduation requirements, and I saw like graduate early and decide to go to grad school somehow. But the pandemic hit me first, and then I decided to go to exchange to study abroad in my home country. And at the time, I find out rather than graduate early, leaving the university, I should actually to learn the stuff I really like it about. Like I should learn more psychology courses and economic courses that I enjoyed learning, and also not so harsh about graduation, because goal for you attending university is not to get a degree or something. It's actually living out of a different experience. So studying abroad actually make me realize that I was too harsh, and I should take a chance and take a time to reflect back myself. And it's also because I kind of bumped my GPA a little bit. So I feel it's like I probably need more time to prepare myself for higher degree education. At the same time, I believe study abroad gave me like a whole different explanation to my own identity and my country and my relationship between my my United States experience and my Chinese experience, because I feel like I don't belong to either side. I'm more like the between. So I feel like study abroad will be like a big life event that might shift your view on your life totally. And on the other hand, definitely you earn the friendship over there. I met a lot of fascinating guys and girls from different UC campus as well as a local student, and we're still getting in contact and getting in touch with each other. So I think it's a pretty good chance to expand your view and experience different kind of life.
I'm tearing up, Gary. That was beautiful. I'm so excited you got that out of your experience. That just makes me so happy. Samantha, what did you get out of studying abroad?
I was really fortunate, my program was really specialized in my major. So I got to meet a lot of people that were in my major and who want to go into my field, like into like academia and stuff like that. And I would say like that was the biggest benefit or one of the biggest benefits for me, because not only did I get to meet like a lot of professors that were in the field that I want to go into who are really prominent and do field work and stuff like that, but I got to meet like a bunch of maybe future professors or people from other schools, like not just from UCs, who want to go to grad school and do things in academia. And so I got to like make those connections and make friends with them. And now like we have this shared interest, or not even shared interest, but shared experience of like going to Greece together. And after that, like, if I want to go into academia, which I realized that I wanted to do like after studying abroad, that I want to go to grad school and stuff like that, I have all these other friends who are doing the same thing, like in the same field as me. And so we can like really connect over that, like through different schools and like across the country and internationally. And so that was like, it was really eye-opening to like have those like connections with people, and like my kind of world is like totally expanded, because now I have all these connections, like not only overseas, but like just all within the United States, like across the board, which was really special.
That is so fantastic. And Zoe, what did you get out of your study abroad experience?
I gained a lot of confidence through studying abroad, both socially, just in terms of like being thrown into a situation where you have to make friends pretty quickly and put yourself out there. That made me just like so much more confident in my ability to like make connections with other people. And it's really helped me out as a peer advisor too, just to like understand other students better and help them have a really great experience with studying abroad. Traveling also made me feel a lot more confident, because it was my first time traveling independently. There was a big learning curve definitely in figuring out things by myself, like public transportation, how to book international plane and train trips. I did get trapped in Belgium for a couple hours at one point, which was not my intentions, but I figured it out. So even things that really scared me beforehand, I gained the confidence to deal with those issues myself and just like become a more mature and secure person.
That's amazing. I love to hear those growth stories. That just makes me so happy. I'm so happy for all of you guys. It just makes me, I'm just all warm and fuzzy now. And so my last pre-scheduled question to everyone is, what's one piece of advice you'd like to give other students thinking about studying abroad? And we'll start with Fiona.
The one piece of advice I would give is to be really open-minded, because if you're able to, if you're willing to try new things, you're gonna get so many amazing experiences out of study abroad. So that means like, just if someone's like, oh, let's check out this place, and you're like, yeah, let's do it. And even if you're like scared of it, maybe consider doing it. So anecdote, me and my friends, we went to this island after one of our midterms, and there was this like, it's this rock pool, and like there's this like 10-meter cliff that you can jump off of. And like, let me tell you, I'm afraid of heights. And I was like, I don't really want to do that. But then they're like, you know what, you're only going to be able to do this once in your life, maybe. And then I was just like, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna do it. And so I did jump off, and now I get to say that I jumped off a 10-meter cliff. So just be really open-minded. You can get really cool experiences and you can meet really cool people. So if you're studying abroad, really take advantage of that.
Love it. Yes. Gary, what's your one piece of advice?
Yeah, my advice would be something about before departure, because you really need to talk to your major advisor and department advisor to see your schedule. I studied abroad for 7 courses and transferred to like 26 UC unit, but actually only 3 of the unit could be transferred and applied to my major, because I didn't have time and patience to go through each courses with my department advisor. So it kind of hurt my progress toward the graduation. So my advice would be definitely talk to a major advisor and be actively communicate with your EAP advisors as well, because they are there for to help you, and definitely should keep all the syllabus from your host university, because they could you might use them later, because some of the courses you try to apply toward your major require you to send the syllabus over for faculty to review. So talk to your advisor and keep all the syllabus.
So smart. That's excellent advice, Gary. As an advisor, I approve Gary's message. Samantha, what's your one piece of advice?
My piece of advice kind of goes off of what Fiona said about like being really open-minded, and kind of just like be prepared for anything that could be thrown at you, because like you're going to a new country, like most likely probably alone. You might not know a lot of people. So just be like really open-minded and try to really put yourself out there and like make those social connections with everyone, and know that like if you're nervous of studying abroad, like everyone else is nervous. Like I was nervous to do it by myself, but like all my roommates were nervous, and we're all doing this for the first time and all experiencing at once. So like you're not alone in that. And like everyone, like there's a huge like coalition of people to help you, like both like at home, like at your at whatever UC you're at, but also like while you're abroad, your host country or your host university like really wants you to have a good time. So you can always turn to them like if something goes wrong, or if you're like feeling insecure about something, they have like resources for you to like check out to make sure that like you're okay and you're secure in yourself. So yeah, just be open-minded. And if you're nervous, that's okay. Like you're supposed to be nervous. No one should, unless you're an experienced traveler, you really shouldn't be like super, super okay with traveling alone for the first time.
Great advice. And Zoe, what's your one piece of advice?
I would suggest doing some research before studying abroad of your host country. I am always super paranoid about being a bad tourist, especially as Americans. You know, we have a bad rap sometimes for not being respectful tourists. And it was really important to me that I was coming in with like a good amount of cultural knowledge. And also when I was traveling to any countries where the main language wasn't English, I actually tried to like learn some conversational amount of that language on Duolingo or something like that, because I was just so paranoid about being a bad tourist. So I found it really helpful to like just do a little bit of research on like British history, British contemporary culture, the political issues of the time, and what the youth culture is like as well. It really helped me just to like understand what was going around me a lot better. And I think a lot of people I talked to appreciated that I was coming in with this knowledge and with a bit of a deeper appreciation for the country's history and culture.
Very cool. All right. Wonderful advice, everyone. So now I'm going to pull some questions from the audience. I see some in the chat. I see some in the Q&A. So if any audience members have more questions, please put them in the Q&A. And for these questions, if you could please do nice, short, concise answers, and we'll try and get through as many as we can. So some of you are asking questions that are going to be very specific to your UC campus. Since the panelists are from a range of different UC campuses and they went on a range of different study abroad programs, some of those that are specific I'm not going to address today, but I highly recommend that you contact your study abroad office at your UC campus so you can get the right answers that apply directly to you. So a question for Samantha. how did you convince your parents to let you study abroad during a pandemic?
That is a great question. My mom had studied abroad when she was in college. So when I first mentioned that I wanted to study abroad, like before the pandemic happened, she was like really gung-ho about it, and really supported me through it. And I was actually supposed to go like fall of 2020. But then like the pandemic hit and like getting a visa got really complicated. So I deferred my application to the spring semester. And then everything kind of worked out then. But they were really supportive. And they said, you know, if you don't really get this, you're not going to really get this chance like at any other point in your life. So might as well do it now, was kind of their reasoning.
Oh, fantastic. And I know that like parental concerns is super, super common. So if you have any questions about that, that's a great thing to ask either the peer advisors in your office or the advisors in your office, and you can get advice on that. And that's super common. A show of hands for the panelists. Who here is a double major or a major with a minor? Oh, wow. Okay. So question for all of you guys. So short answers. How did you go about choosing a program? I'll start, or who wants to start? Who would like to share out of you three?
I can go first, I guess. So again, my major is classics. I think I've mentioned it like 40 times now, but that, and then I'm minoring in archaeology and political science, and all of those kind of connect. They're all in like, you know, in humanities or like social science. So the program I chose, Collinger in Athens, like offered classes that were like in those fields, and kind of in like a range of humanities fields. So that worked out for me. Like even if I didn't choose that program and I was like able to go somewhere else with a lot of humanities classes, it kind of would work out for me because I could pick and choose like just, you know, in philosophy or in literature and like make that work for my major.
Excellent. Zoe, how about you? How did you choose a program with your double major or minor?
Yeah, so I'm an art history major and a film and media studies minor. And I was just taking classes in art history while I studied abroad, but I was very conscious of my scheduling and I made sure to plan out ahead of time when I'd be getting all my classes done and requirements knocked out for both my major and my minor. So I definitely suggest doing a bit of planning ahead of time, just so that you feel a little bit more secure and so that you're able to get all your classes in.
Nice. And how about you, Gary? How did you choose a program?
I might not be really qualified because my credit didn't get transferred a lot, but I would say for the program choosing, there are a recommendation in different department website, and you could talk to your advisor. They would recommend you some programs. And for me, like Fudan is a really great economic course, economic school, so that's the reason I picked it. And even if those credit doesn't go through and apply to a major, you can still learn the technique and the knowledge there and apply them when you heading back to UC campus. You can still use those knowledge to help you with the classes you are taking. So even though the credit I didn't transfer, but I feel like I already mastered the material I need to learn in the UCSB courses. So yeah, it's kind of balanced out.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's good advice. Next question. This one got an upvote. People want to know about what your finals were like abroad. So let's do short answers for everyone. I'll start with Fiona.
So the way that my program is structured is that we don't have finals technically. We just had like bi-weekly exams. So my program is 8 weeks long. So that means every 2 weeks we had an exam. And so those exams obviously are worth a lot, but that's how it was structured for us.
Nice. Gary, what were your final exams like?
We only have one final exam. It pretty much like the UC campus one. I don't know about the other campus, but pretty much the similar one with UCSB. And that final take like 70% of your total grade. So basically the final decides your final grade can be. And it's cumulative. So it's kind of overwhelming during the final week.
Gotcha. And Samantha, what were yours like?
Mine were like very similar to the ones that I've been taking at UCI. I either had like some papers to turn in, like a final paper, a final project, or over Zoom, like there was a test I just had to take over Zoom. So it was really, really similar to like just regular school.
Interesting. And Zoe?
My finals were also really similar to what I'm used to at my school. I just had some really large papers due at the end of the year, which is pretty standard to an upper division seminar, so it wasn't too much of an adjustment.
Great. And then we have 2 minutes left, so I'm going to ask a question we haven't really talked on, which is like costs and finances. So they ask, the question I received was, did you have a part-time job while abroad, or were all your expenses covered? And I kind of want to tweak that to, how did you afford to go abroad, and if you used any resources or financial aid or scholarships? So quick answers, starting with Fiona.
So my situation is a little different. I know a lot of people get financial aid for their programs, but for me, I didn't get a lot. So a lot of it had to come out of pocket for me. But fortunately, my program was not too expensive. It's considered pretty cheap for a study abroad program. So that's why my parents were able to help me pay for it. And I understand that's like a position that not everyone's able to have, but that's why there are scholarships and grants available for study abroad. So just check with your UC campus for those.
Excellent. Gary, how did you fund your study abroad?
Yeah, for me, I didn't have a chance to apply for different scholarship because I'm an international student. But it turns out the tuition of studying abroad is actually cheaper compared to when you study at UC campus. And actually, most of your financial budget and like scholarship goes with you. So I think financial budget wouldn't be like a very, very big problem for those of you who concerns. And we have different scholarship offered for different programs. So definitely be active to talk to your advisors about that.
Very nice. Samantha.
Yeah, I also got some financial aid, and then like during the pandemic, it was like the one thing that was good. I didn't have to pay for rent, when I was attending UCI during the pandemic. So like the money that I saved there went to my study abroad, and then I also worked part-time, like in the year or like about the 6 months preparing up till study abroad, so that I could like have spending money and then also use that towards my tuition.
Excellent. And Zoe?
Most of my tuition and housing was covered by financial aid. And then for me, groceries and travel expenses were mainly covered by 3 different scholarships that I received. And then I'd also been saving up money for quite a while because I've worked throughout the school year for my entire time at UCI.
Wonderful. Wonderful, guys. Oops. There we go. So it is 8:01. So with that, I know we're getting some really, really good questions coming through the question and answer in the chat. Thank you so much, panelists, for being here and sharing your experience. I'm like buzzing. I absolutely loved hearing about your stories. So I'm so glad that so many people got to hear about your experiences as well. For those of you who want to hear more, you want to talk with the returnees, you want to talk with advisors, definitely contact the Study Abroad office on your campus, and they will connect you with their people. They will help you answer all those questions. There's going to be a lot more info sessions coming up, which are phenomenal, so check those out. This recording will be emailed out to all everyone who registered, so those who weren't able to attend as well. And it will be posted as well on the UCSB, the UC Santa Barbara EAP YouTube. That's kind of where it's going to live. And then we're going to email out that link to everyone who registered, so that even those who didn't register can still view it. So you can share it with friends if you found tips and you want other people to kind of get this info as well. So with that, thank you so much, Fiona, Gary, Samantha, and Zoe. I loved hearing about your experiences. I'm so glad you had a good time. And with that, and we'll say good night. Bye, everyone. Thanks.